And we're live, I think. Yes, we're live, he says. I don't know what's happened to the sound. So, I don't know what's happened to the sound. The sound's all disappeared. Oh, there's the sound. Brilliant. So, we're live. Welcome to Leaders Live, folks. And this is a short countdown timer just to help the various feeds catch up and settle down, just like we need to settle down after going live, because we're never quite sure we're live. Oh, we can't wait for today's groovy show, folks. And backed by popular demand today, we're hanging out with MD of Astute Law, Thushara Polpitiye, known as Tosh, much easier to pronounce. And we'll be chatting about sound employment advice with no sentimental tosh. You see what I did there? Ooh, I think that deserves an ooh. So, hi Tosh, give us a wave, give us a quick hello.
Hi, how are you?
All right, thank you. All good. Thank you very much. Great to have you on the show again. So people are joining in, so that's great. And helping us to engage, we have the lovely Birdine, our fab moderator, chipping in. And she'll be keeping us on the straight and narrow and keeping the interaction flowing. So, good morning, Birdine.
Good morning, Andrew. It's nice having Tosh back.
It is.
Morning, Brett. Nice to see you too.
Yeah, Tosh.
So,
yeah.
looking forward to today.
We certainly are looking forward to today. So, music by my Uncle Peter. And this is the 56th show, folks. Fantastic. We've all been part of this growing live community that feels really exciting, and that deserves a... brilliant. Just turn the sound effects up a little bit. So good morning. We've got lots of people saying good morning. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Tilly. Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Joe again. Ooh, Paul Winfield. Good morning, Tabitha. Hi, Tabitha. Great to see you. Christopher Beekmans. Good morning. So fantastic. Yeah, keep the interaction going, please. That's absolutely great. So this is oi people, Sauerborner, it's Leaders Live showtime, folks, and it's just after 8:45 and we are live, and we're spreading the love, yappa tappa do. So let me just quickly change scenes. So I love that expression. So if you're new to Leaders Live and you don't know me, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and we've got Birdine, our moderator, and Tosh in the room today. So we'll reintroduce that again in a minute. So we're streaming out on LinkedIn, folks. We're streaming out on YouTube. We're streaming out on Facebook groups, Twitter, and Twitch as well. Ta-da! Don't know how it all works, but it all hangs together somehow. So if you can't catch us live, folks, or on the replay, fear not, my friends. We have you covered. We go out on podcast too. So if you're new to this it's an interactive show, folks. So please get involved, join in, ask questions, network with the live community. Even a little bit of friendly banter here and there goes really well. So for you regulars, lead the way, show how it's done, show how we roll. And so we'll put it all together. And what do you got? Bibbidi bobbidi boo, you've got it. You'll be singing that song all day. So as mentioned last week, we'll be shortly announcing something very exciting that we're working on right now, and adding other interesting and useful features to add even more business value to you as our community. So watch this space, folks. Watch this space. So quick. Wrong scene. Where are we? Where is Tosh? There we go. Let's bring in our live guest today. So we are live with... as I've already mentioned, hanging out with Managing Director of Astute Law and highly accomplished professional lawyer, my friend Tosh. Great to have you on the show, Tosh. How you doing, mate?
Great, Andrew. Really thank you for asking me to come along. It's really good to sort of put some good out there, maybe speak about topics in a way that people haven't heard about that will be of value. So it's fun. I'm looking forward to it.
This is a fun show, and good morning to Laurie Hales, Matthias, good morning, Jonas, good morning from Denmark. Matthias, you're in Vietnam today. Wow, good morning from Vietnam. There's a line of a film in there somewhere, isn't there? Good morning, Vietnam. Oh, brilliant. So good morning from Mo Patel. Good morning, Nicole Glock. Great to have you on the show. Good morning, and Reinhold Kuster, good morning, and Cecile, good morning, and Silver Fox. Guys in the room today, fantastic. And
Silver Fox.
How's everyone today, says Christopher. Brilliant weather here in the sunny UK. Yeah, I think it's only 5 degrees in South Africa, where Birdine's from. So, Sean, Victor, good morning. Justin, good morning. And so it flows on. So tell us a little bit about today, Tosh. Where are you taking us? Where are we heading?
Well, you asked me to come up with something that might be useful for your audience, for business owners, and I thought, what nuggets can I give for over 25 years of experience in the industry? And if I were to just sort of narrow it down to three main elements that I could pass on to every business, what would those things be? And so one of the topics was about how to fire someone nicely. Now, that sometimes causes quite a lot of controversy, but we're not talking about P&O ferries where they just do something horribly. We're talking about there's a different way of bringing an employment relationship to an end that perhaps you haven't thought about, because it often becomes quite adversarial.
Yeah.
Second thing we were going to talk about was, how to hire somebody in the right way, because we often end up hiring somebody, rushing to get a bum on a seat, and guess what you end up with? Bum on a seat. So, so you've got to there's a different way of doing it rather than regressing it afterwards and then backpedaling. And then the last thing, which is probably the most important thing, is, how do we value our employees so that they stay? Yeah. And, I think you've got employers and employees in this forum. I'd like to hear what they've got to say about those sorts of things, because, when you think about it, it isn't always about the money. It's important, but, why does your wife stay with you, Andrew?
It's all about the money.
I know you're loaded. I didn't mean that. But, there's certainly lots of other benefits and values and appreciation and factors that really fill your heart and fulfill you in some way. And that's what we're going to go through as well.
Brilliant. So hiring, firing and valuing. Oh, love that. Fantastic. So as you'll notice, Tosh has a dynamic, get it sorted, no nonsense style, easy to understand approach. And this makes him really engaging and persuasive. We can't wait to dig into the show. So we're going to get to some of the really hard stuff around the people issues today that employees, leaders and managers often need advice on. And that's what we're looking at today. Also, there's a chance for you to join in and ask lots of questions from Tosh and his advice for your own real employment issues and other business-related legal issues as we're going through the show. So get your questions prepared, folks. And talking about questions, Tosh, have you got a question to kick us off with, Tosh?
We had you mean questions for the audience?
Yeah, questions for the audience.
Yeah, I suppose what I like to know is, and I'm hoping they can bring these things up during the chat today, is what are your biggest headaches? What are the nightmare situations you're having to deal with where you think, oh God, how do I resolve this situation? Whether you're an employee with a toxic boss, or whether you're an employer who's got a nightmare employee, whatever the scenario is, what are you facing out there? What are the problems you think you can't get over or get around that perhaps I can make you see in a different way?
Brilliant. Okay, so there you go, folks. Questions in the chat already, so you can start to answer that as we're going along. There's a bit of a delay in the feed, so we'll come back to that in a minute. Just want to say hello to Steve Whittle. Great to see you. Great to speak to you the other day. Nikki Iyer, great to see you as well. Caught you on podcast the other day. You were brilliant, Nikki, with actually the wonderful Tosh.
Yeah, I've seen Nikki as well.
Fantastic.
She's brilliant.
Great to have you on the show. Mark Ferguson, good morning. And Nikki's all about bullying and stuff like that in the workplace. And that's her answer there. So bullying is the one thing that she wants to bring up. So there's a bit of delay in the feed, and we'll come back to you in just a tick, Tosh. We're just going to just do a quick interlude. So as mentioned, Leaderslive is an interactive show, so please join in, folks. Don't be shy. Use the comments for these questions and engage with us during the show and each other. Remember, it's a group conversation. You know how it goes. So, and during the countdown, I briefly introduced Birdie, our fantastic moderator all the way from cold South Africa this morning. How you doing, Birdie? Get a chance to say a little bit more.
I'm doing well. As you said, it is cold here. So I think somewhere it must be snowing. I don't know. On the top of the peaks of the mountains where we can't see it because it's quite a cold wind coming through. But it will heat up later. Believe me, we get 4 seasons in one. So it's a regular thing. But looking forward to today. I think most managers or business owners, they don't get enough time to talk about the topic at hand today. And it just affords you the opportunity to come in and ask Tosh these questions that you want answered. And then afterwards connecting with him and taking the conversation further.
There we go. Fantastic. Thanks, Berdine. And the definition of cold is quite interesting. It's actually 5 degrees in where Berdine is at the moment. But last week she was complaining. Berdine was saying it's really cold, right? And we just said, "Well, what's the temperature?" She said, "Oh, it's 15." that's like summertime for us in the UK sometimes. That's all relative, folks. Yeah, brilliant. So smash those likes too, folks, and we really appreciate that. Keeps us motivated too as we're going along. Lacka, and please subscribe to our Leaders Live YouTube community channel. It's a group effort. We're almost at 100 now. I know that sounds a small number, but believe you me, it's hard to get to that 100. So please join in on the Leaders Live YouTube community, and Berdine will put that in the chat later. So back to Tosh for a moment. Where is Tosh? There's Tosh. So just before we begin, let's just give you a round of applause, Tosh. Feel the love, Tosh. Feel the love. I hope you love the groovy build-up, my friend.
I just saw Mark Ferguson's question, which made me chuckle.
What was that? Sorry, Mark Ferguson's question.
Difficult questions to senior management. The Emperor's got no clothes. Yeah, I get that, Mark.
Mark, we're all naked from the waist down, mate. I wonder how true that is. But there you go. Anyway, that's another question. So, Berdine, what's in the comments? Let's just catch up with where people are with the first question.
Okay, so Mo said bullying, Nikki said bullying, Christopher said banter, being seen as bullying.
Oh,
Paul,
yeah.
definitely bullying. I'm guessing this is guy passengers and non-performers.
Oh.
Nikki said, she said thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying thank you.
Matthias said limited autonomy for employees.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd like to dig into that a bit. That's interesting.
Yeah, we're discussing that today, Andrew. I've got that on my list.
Yeah.
We've got that covered. Matthias, there you go. All the way from Vietnam. Yeah.
Mark Ferguson said asking difficult questions to senior management. The Emperor's got no clothes on. Oh, he spoke, you just mentioned that.
Yeah, that's right.
Paul said accountability. Christopher said, I agree, asking difficult questions to senior management. Good morning, Maria. Maria is in the room.
Maria's in the room.
Mark said, I can't think about that now.
Please don't. Oh, I see. You can't unthink that now. Ah, there you go. Brilliant.
Jack said, mental health office has a range of ages and genders.
Yeah. So Jack always comes out with some perlers, and that, mental health absolutely is one not to dismiss, right? And today's agenda.
Yes.
Thanks, Jack.
And then Jonas just said, Andrew, do not ask questions you might not want to know the answer.
Brilliant. Oh, great. Thanks, Jonas. Yeah, he's got a great sense of humour, as Jonas.
And then Ari said, hi, Tosh, how to perform excellent hires.
Oh, right. Okay, we'll come on to that for sure. Ari, fine.
Joe said, broach the subject of menopause.
Oh, really good point. And this is hardly talked about, swept under the carpet quite a bit, and becoming an agenda item. Absolutely, Joe. Spot on.
And then a guy just said, good issue, Jack, mental health. So
there we go.
The mental health statement.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so just before we kick off, you've got another second question for us, for those listening, Tosh, to engage with us. What was your second question?
You're catching me off guard now.
We like doing that.
Yeah, we like doing that, yeah.
I can't recall what it was now. Have you got it there?
Yeah, I've got it. So when it comes to your people, folks, what would your dream workplace look like? So we talked about the problems, what would the solution look like? What would the dream workplace look like for you? So answers on a postcard straight into the chat, please. That would be fantastic. So let us know in the comments for your answers, and we'll pick these up as we go. So just while we're waiting for answers for that, so Tosh, kick us off. Look, none of us want to wake up every morning going to work to want to do this one, but sometimes we all have to face this, don't we? Whether an employee or a manager or a leader. But how do we go about firing someone nicely?
So I'm not going to talk about just the legal process. I'll do
Yeah.
that very briefly, at least, if I am going to talk about it. Verbal warnings, first written warnings, final written warnings, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about a much more practical way, which certainly we've been engaging with clients a lot more recently.
Yeah.
And what happens when there's a disciplinary process, Andrew, is that automatically there's the good guy and the bad guy. Everybody gets into a position, and depending whose back you've got, the employer's the bad guy because they're firing somebody, or the employee's the bad guy because they have it coming.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. Let's really look at why are we in a situation where we're looking at terminating somebody's employment. So P&O Ferries, they got it massively wrong.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because the reason they wanted to dismiss people was wrong. That was valid. But the way they did it was horrible.
Yeah, wasn't
And
it?
there was just no morals about it, and it affected the company in a massive way. Nobody cared about that was what was going on. They wanted to know, why did they do it that way? So one of the ways to think about this is when you get into a situation where it's not working out with the employee, why not have, wait up for this, a grown-up conversation? How about one of those? Remember those things?
Adult to adult conversation, Tosh, like it.
It doesn't have to be personal. You're rubbish. You're crap at this. You're not meeting our standards, or whatever else it is. Something isn't working out. Maybe that person isn't a right fit for where they are with you as the employer. Maybe they're really fantastic somewhere else. But your value depends on where you're at and what you're doing and so forth. So perhaps if we had a grown-up conversation, and even if this went to tribunal, quite frankly, I think this is pretty much stand up, it would be something along the lines of, well, why is it not working out? What are the issues? What can we do to help? If you can demonstrate to that employee you've done more than what's reasonable to make it work out, to the point where they say, yeah, you know what, you're right, this isn't working out. Well, then you're going to be in a much better place where the conversation's an open dialogue, much more grown up, much more friendly. And here's the real sort of the final sort of point to make on it is you're not done then. Once you've found out that it's not working out, why can't we help them find another job?
Yeah.
Why don't we move them into another job? How do you do that? Well, how are you finding a replacement for that chap? So maybe we find out what that guy really wants. And I don't think it's much of an effort for employers. And you could get in touch with your recruitment contacts, or if you don't have any, reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with them. And we find that person a job that they can work into. And then we let them get into that job. You'll be surprised when there's enough focus on it, how quickly you can actually get what you want to get if you really focus on it in the right way, with the right numbers, with the right effort and all those sorts of factors. So let's say that it takes that person 2 months to get another job. How do you, and you don't fire them, you move them along and they agree to leave and go into the next job. What does that say? What is that employee whose employment's been terminated going to say about that company? And more than that, a little bit like, a little bit like children, not in a patronizing way, but employees, it's not what you say to them, it's what they see is what they're really going to register. So what are they seeing? They're seeing that, you know what, no matter what the situation is, they look after their people. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work out, but they're not going to do it in a horrible, disrespectful, undermining way. They're doing it in a way saying, look, it just hasn't worked out. So let's move you along. Let's change our language. Let's move you along to something that's a better fit.
I really like
that.
that.
Dialogue, guess what happens? You don't need tribunal cases. People do not have a gripe. It puts me out of a job. I know that sounds odd, but it's great. The idea is to make it work. So what do you think about that, Andrew, as an approach? Is that something you've ever come across?
I really like the idea of, look, just try and make it work. And if it hasn't worked out, then have that grown-up conversation. I also like the whole thing about, try and have a dialogue that kind of matches where the person needs to be. And if it's not within that company, or it's a different role within the company, or it's a completely different company, it's kind of help that person out, have that grown-up conversation. I really like that. And also, we do get square pegs in round holes, don't we? And the interview process, it's not always easy to find the right, we don't know we're going to get the right person. There's always a risk, isn't there? Even with exhaustive interviews, we can't always get it right. So, and sometimes a little bit down the road, people just don't think the job was what they wanted, themselves, right? Yeah. So it's a two-way conversation is what I'm hearing.
It doesn't have to become unpleasant and adversarial, and by no means is this going to be appropriate for every situation, where there are complaints of discrimination or maybe even bullying in the workplace or what have you. But it doesn't hurt to have the grown-up conversation, I'm going to keep calling it, upfront. Look, this is what's happening now. Where do you see this going? Okay, why don't we work on this is where I see it going. Okay, so let's see if we can work this out and make it work. Or if not, why don't we do this? And if they say no and it doesn't work out, well, then we can go back to our normal processes and procedures and our handbook that's in a drawer that nobody likes reading. This is more of a common sense, treating people with decency and respect that I think is going to go much further than your standard textbook approach. This is the way that we should be advising people, like from the trenches, not from an ivory tower. It's built on sort of real world application that will actually register with people.
I really like that. Yeah, it's just taking it to a different place, isn't it? Rather than just following the rule book. You're talking about having really sensible dialogue with people, which then leads to valuing people as well, which is what you're going to talk about a little bit later. Let's give you a break for a moment. Berdine, what's going on in the chat? Let's just catch up with where people are at.
Okay, so we've got Christopher Beekman said, how would you go about restructuring contracts for employees along with a complete restructure? I'm worried about navigating the backlash.
Oh, that's a good question. Do we come on to that now or a little bit later if we mark that one? Tosh, what do you want to do? Do you want to handle that now?
I don't mind.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it if you want to. Yes, please.
Run the question by me again.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'll bring it up for you. That's even more better, isn't it? There you go.
Better.
How would you go about restructuring contracts for employees along with a complete restructure? I'm worried about navigating the backlash. There we go.
Okay, so there's a number of factors in that question, right? Why are we restructuring it? There's presumably a purpose behind it. There's a reason we're wanting to change the way we're operating or change terms and conditions. Yeah. So the key, first of all, when you're engaging with any dialogue, it isn't just what the issue is or how we're going about it, but our why. When people understand your why and it's genuine and authentic, and we're having this grown-up conversation I keep referring to, it's going to be registering differently. Naturally, when you're speaking to employees about a restructure, and if you're talking about a redundancy situation, not just changes of terms and conditions, what do you think the first thing that's going through the employee's mind is?
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
they'll be worried about their job, their livelihood. They've got a mortgage to pay, kids to feed, maybe
mortgage tokens.
Whatever the circumstances are. How am I going to get money? So that the natural position is defensive. You're getting me out.
Gotcha.
You're doing something wrong. This doesn't feel right. It is, and the key is a lot about it's not what you say, how you say it. So really, as employers, don't forget the employers are also not sure how to communicate. You can tell that just from the question. They're so uncomfortable with doing this situation. It doesn't feel good, but the circumstances are what they are. So if we're coming across in a way, in our language in such a way, look, I don't like this at all. This is what's happening. This is why we're doing it. This is what the process is. We're taking advice, so we're making sure it's done the right way. Any questions you have, complete transparency, please ask us. We must, I want you to know we're doing everything we can do that is right in these circumstances, but this is what is happening and why it's happening. This is the time frame it's happening. And if you are made redundant as a result of this structure, this is what you're potentially looking at. And again, the scenario Andrew was talking about earlier about why can't we move people along? Well, why don't we see what we can do to help them? Let's get them in touch with recruitment agents, or if they've been in a job for a long time, get them in touch with people that help them with CV writing and interviewing skills. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with us still having their back and showing that, look, we had to do what the right thing was in the circumstances and some. That's how we communicate to people regarding restructuring. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, Christopher's on about the contracts as well. How important is it to have that contract? And if you have to restructure it, Tosh, how do you go about that? What's the smoothest way of doing that with your guys or girls?
So think about it like this. Contracts why are they there?
Yeah.
Contracts are there only really if there's a dispute. So it's to create certainty of terms.
Okay.
This is what I'm doing for you. This is what you're doing for me. We've got clarity, right?
Mm-hmm.
When the minute the contract doesn't reflect the reality of the situation, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So how important is it the contract in place? I think it is to reflect what the reality of the situation is. So if there's a change as a result of the restructure, and you've obviously consulted with the staff in the right way, you've gone through that process with them, explaining what the changes are, let them know what their choices are. If you don't agree to the changes, then this is what happens.
Gotcha.
If you do agree to the changes, well, this is how you keep the job, and this is what happens.
Yeah.
And this is why these are the choices.
Okay.
So I'm thinking in my chair.
Yeah, I was just trying to catch you where you're.
My ankles, Andrew.
Thank you.
So it's important you have it in there to reflect the reality of it, because you know what, when I say something to you, Andrew, that registers at one level. When I write something to you, that reinforces what I've said to you.
Gotcha.
So it is important to have it because memories fade, and also you just want clarity of understanding between the parties.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Christopher. Berdine, let's catch. There's millions going on in the chat. Let's just catch up very quickly.
Maria just responded to the question we asked about the dream workplace, and she said flexible hours to work around family.
4-day working week, whoop, 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 or even 3 would be my challenge.
That's more and more common now, Andrew, isn't it? A lot of people are doing a 5-day week in 4 days.
Yeah.
Certainly, so my staff are doing that sort of thing. And then it comes down to, what do you actually need? Do you need people in the office all the time?
That's right.
Because it's time sensitive. Do they need to be responding during certain hours, or is it getting a job done?
Yeah.
So, flexible working is really, really doable. I think there's two things to understand. Employers aren't always thinking about it from the flexible working point of view of the employee. And we're going to come back to a bit later on about valuing employees by trying to see the world through their eyes or in their shoes.
Yeah.
But if you as an employee want to work flexibly, well, make your case.
Yeah, make your case.
Tell the employer why it works.
Yeah.
Say, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work 4 days a week instead of the 5 days. And this is why it works. And this is how I can do it. I'm still doing 40 hours.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing 10 hours a day or whatever it is. I just have to I'll have a long weekend, please.
Yeah.
And why is that a problem? And let the employer just explain why that's a problem, and then overcome that challenge. It's just through
back and forth dialogue. Dialogue,
engagement, understanding. How do we make this work? Not, oh God, that sounds painful. Always start with, how can we make this work? And then you're aiming for it, and then you're more likely to hit it. And if obviously there's an obstacle that doesn't work because something is time sensitive on a Friday for that person's role, for example, if they're trying to change it to Monday to Thursday. Well, then okay, we've had the conversation. But flexible working at any job, we all know how doable that is. Before COVID, how many employers said you can't work from home?
Yeah, true.
They're all liars.
Well, it's whole mindset shift. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Birdie.
They needed to.
Yeah, indeed.
Nikki said psychologically safe, able to speak up, flexible again, feel heard, valued and respected.
Yeah, and we're going to come on to that a little bit further later on, Nikki, but spot on. Yeah. Birdie.
Jack said confident, forward thinkers, working as a team, supporting each other, and flexible home and work-life balance.
Yeah, echo what you've just said there, Tosh. Perfect.
Okay, I'm guessing this is Guy. Hello, Maria. Good to see you again. Good question. Flexible hours as long as a client gets the service.
Yeah, spot on.
Yes. Matthias said it would be a workplace where everyone are able to collaborate nicely, where there are leaders, not bosses, that empower and encourage employees towards success. The career ladder is clear for everyone from day one. Important information is forwarded straight away. There is a psychologically safe environment, creativity is encouraged, and flexible hours as long as the job is done within the deadline.
Perfect. That sounds like a high-performance team to me, Matthias. The wise words from the wonderful Matthias. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Matthias.
That's a really important point, Andrew. And a few people made the point. Let's not get lost in, I want to work flexibly because of this is my need, or because of this is going on in my life. I'm not saying it's not important, but you're working in a place for a reason. So if you can deliver on the requirements of the role that you're there in any way whatsoever, well, that's how it works. So when I say make your case to your employer, I'm not saying don't talk about what's affecting you personally, why you want this request, but the issue really has to be is how can I make it work for you?
Yeah, stand in their shoes. Yeah, spot on. It's not just all about you, folks. It's about, how it benefits the business as well, and make your case, not just your own selfish case. Thank you for that, Tosh. Brilliant.
Okay, Jack just repeated what he said before.
Okay.
Call to empower an environment of honesty, trust, and respect.
Spot on, and then you don't necessarily need the contracts, right? Because you're working on a high performance basis. I know you still need the contracts, but essentially you're working differently, aren't you?
You need the contracts when things go wrong, Andrew.
That's right, but not when they're going right?
Everybody's clear what's going on. Everybody's happy.
Perfect. I love that. You only need the contract if things go wrong. Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Tabitha said working as a team, having open conversations and flexible working.
Yeah, that's exactly where we are. Thanks, Tabitha. Brilliant to hear from you as well.
And then a guy said courageous conversation, the right message, both ways, expectations.
Oh, Guy's on it this morning. Well done, Guy. Nice. Like that.
And then Jack said, and we are working towards these in my company now. I would say we are 70% there.
Yeah, brilliant. great company to work for then. Shout out for Jack's, your DMS. Brilliant. Okay.
I wonder what the 30% holding him back to making it 100% is.
Well, that'll be interesting, Jack. There you go. There's a question for you, mate.
From that, if you got that far with it.
Where's the other 30% going? That's great. Okay.
Yeah, because we're talking about transparent conversations, right? Openness, understanding. So I can imagine there's 70% of the company having these nice dialogues, 30% saying, "Oh, look at that over there."
I guess it's changing the culture, but things take time, don't they, to change culture like that? But yeah, let's wait and see what Jack comes up with. Right, carry on, Birdie.
Jana said the perfect workplace for me as a wheelchair user would be a place where the wheelchair was not a bigger problem than wearing glasses.
Nice.
Unfortunately, it is quite normal that people with disabilities are discarded. Obviously not openly, but it is quite obvious that it was the reason.
Yeah. And I hope we're getting better at that. But yeah, Jonas, really good point. Well said, Jonas. Well made point.
There are laws in place for that, obviously, particularly where it's obvious. You're protected as an employee from being treated less favorably as a result of a disability, and employers have an obligation to make what are called reasonable adjustments, which means doing all sorts of things that are according to the size and administrative resources of the organization to make it work.
There you go, folks.
You can't assume things anymore. There's lots of different ways that people can work. They don't have to hear, they don't have to see, they don't have to walk. All the things that people might assume are necessary for the roles. Well, why? What? Because that's how it's been before. Well, times have changed. Yeah. Break through the stereotypes. Lovely. Okay.
No. Christopher said it's not what you say, but rather how you say it.
Oh, there's got to be a song in there somewhere, isn't there?
I literally said that 5 minutes ago now. Don't regurgitate what I've just said, please.
Yeah, Christopher. Brilliant.
I know what you're doing.
Oh, Maria said I like to lift others up, and now and then I need that back from others. I've been dragged down by negativity in leaders and colleagues in the past.
Spot on. Yeah. Maria's going to be on the show shortly talking about mental toughness again. So, that's spot on, Maria. Thank you.
And then such a different Andrew. We had a sorry to interrupt.
No.
It's fine.
We had a speaker on Inspired CEOs talking about, can you remember your worst boss ever? How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Go and step into it, and we all became like, oh God, it's a nightmare. And then what about your best boss? And then that person put us on a platform and a trajectory to probably where we are. We're grateful to them for what they've done. It makes a massive difference for leaders or employers that actually give a damn about their people, whether they stay with you or not.
Perfect. Yeah, the difference between Superman and Darth Vader, right? So good boss, bad boss type of thing. Yeah, nice.
But Darth Vader turned it around at the end, Andrew. I would say that.
Yeah. Darth Vader to Superman, right? or Wonder Woman, for that matter.
Yes.
Okay.
Nimra asked a question. She said, how do you deal with constant negative attitude? Would a grown-up conversation work?
Oh, brilliant. Nimra, what a great question. Tosh.
So Nimra used to work with us, in fact. It's so good to see her there. So he knows the answer to this question. So the grown-up conversation works with grown-ups, Nimra, right? So what happens when you're trying to work out a conversation with somebody where we are trying to figure out a way, whether it's the moving along conversation or whatever else it is, if it's not working out, well, we've given them a chance. Assuming we've come across authentic and we are being genuine in the way we're speaking to them, if the person isn't having it, we can't make them believe it. In which case, we go back to processes, which means invitation to a formal disciplinary meeting regarding their attitude, the impact it's had on the workplace, what we expect to change, and what will happen if they don't change. If it's really bad behavior, it could be gross misconduct, which means a dismissal. If it's bad behavior, but not enough to terminate somebody from their employment, well, then you go through the disciplinary ladder, right? Verbal warning, first written warning, final written warning, and then they're out. So yes, what we're trying to say is we don't need to jump straight into formal disciplinary processes when we can have our grown-up conversation. But if it doesn't work, they're not giving you any choice.
Yeah, and this is about feedback skills as well, being able to have just a conversation with somebody early on about behaviours that isn't anything to do with termination or dismissal, or it's nowhere near that. It's a back and forth conversation to highlight to that person that behaviours they may not realise that they're doing. And it's that balance between being able to change someone's behaviours or whether you've actually got a toxic person in your team that actually needs to be taken further. But first of all, it's all about feedback, right? Which is, again, about adult-to-adult conversations. Is that right, Tosh?
Yes. I mean, Andrew, I don't think it's any different than in relationships, to be honest.
Perfect.
If you're in a toxic relationship, well, what do? You try and work that out. And if that person isn't playing ball, you call it a day. If you're going to do the right thing, that is, unless you're going to stay put and make it even worse.
Yeah.
But in relationships where the community, you can say something negative to the other person or how you feel, and the other person knows where you're coming from. They understand your why, and it doesn't end up in some escalation of issues and egos and problems. They both are trying to resolve it because they feel where the other person's coming from. Look, Andrew, if I'm your best buddy and I say something that turns out not to be true, and I'm your enemy, and I say something not to be true, you're naturally going to assume, rightly or wrongly, that the enemy has done it to cause you problems, and the other one has done it by mistake because he's such a good guy.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to their why, doesn't it? And the same thing in the employment relationship. Where are we coming from? If we come across in a way that is received, great. If not, we have to talk to people like me.
Yeah, and there's also the unconscious bias piece in there as well. It's the assumptions that we make about people. There's quite a lot to. This is all about people management, isn't it? And just being self-aware and emotional intelligence and having good soft skills, which are all a massive requirement in today's workplace, particularly for high-performing teams, which is something that I do a lot of. So it's sort of...
And Andrew, you hit the nail on the head there. If we were able to focus our energies on training on those areas,
correct,
communication, understanding, and I don't mean some sort of tree-hugging approach. I mean effective communication that gets through. If somebody's bad at their job, it's not you are bad at your job and I hate you. It's got to be along the lines of, okay, what's going on here? You're here for this. What's working? Let's work it out. And if it doesn't work out, we'll figure out something else.
Beautiful. Let's work it out. This is all about the people factor, folks. And, look, if you want to get a thriving workplace, one of the maxims of this Leaders Live is I to the power of we, which is exactly what we're saying here. Nice one. Okay, give you a break for a minute. Berdine, catch us up on the billion comments that are going on in the chat.
So, I guess I'm pronouncing this Ditebe.
Yeah.
I hope I'm pronouncing, because this is from Witzer. You are in Cape Town. He asked, when to be a boss versus a leader versus a manager.
Okay.
So differentiating between those.
Yeah, we'll come back onto that, I think. Let's come back, because that's going to be a longer question, but let's just catch up on some of the chat. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
So,
well, Guy just answered Nimra. He said a kick up the arse would work.
Yeah, that's almost like the feedback.
Not an employment lawyer.
That sounds a little bit like the feedback sandwich, which we shouldn't use, should we? Say something good, say something bad, say something good, say something bad. So, or the other way around. I like your shoes. Your tie's good, but your work's crap. Type of kick up the arse. Yeah, that's that. I know that's a joke. But...
Laurie Hale said, a grown-up conversation. Please go have a chat with my former CFO.
Yeah, okay.
By the sounds of it, Laurie, we can't, because he's not going to have that.
He's not going to have that conversation. Yeah. Well, nice one, Laurie.
But Laurie, I would leave it there. Sometimes it's about influencing people in your conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Put yourself in their shoes. What do they need to see, hear, and feel to come to the decision or the outcome you're looking to influence them on? Rather than, from your point of view, how can I change their mind? What would it take if you were them? Look at it that way, Laurie, and perhaps that conversation changes for you.
Yeah, step yourself in his or her shoes, and that's often a way of looking at the thing from a different perspective, right? Fresh pair of eyes. I like to say, your shoes, my shoes, fly on the wall. Look at those through different perspectives to figure out an issue that's difficult to understand, because otherwise we make assumptions, right? Great. Okay. So, Berdine.
Christopher said, so bite the bullet and explain the rationale.
Yeah, I think that's in as a summary to the question which Christopher asked. Yeah, spot on. Absolutely. Bite the bullet, Christopher. Explain the rationale. Just explain it. Be human about it. Absolutely. The more open you are, the more transparent you are, the easier it is to consume, right? Because people suss out whether you're not being transparent. Yeah? Yeah. Okay.
Correct. The only time they don't bite the bullet is either they don't know what they're doing or there's something dodgy going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's play a poker game where everybody's showing their hands, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And no poker faces, right? Okay, Berdine, carry on.
Guys said time frame good, restructure and timing.
Yeah. Okay, so if it's got to be done, make sure the timing's right. Okay. Yep, that's great, says Christopher.
Yes. And then Nimra and Guys having conversation. She said, you as well, Tosh, giving some solid advice.
Yeah, spot on. There you go.
And then Laurie said she just mentioned to Christopher that is something her mother drilled into her head. Yeah. And then Maria said, my husband's employees have worked a 4-day week for the last year.
Wow.
And productivity hasn't gone down.
There you go. It's probably the reverse, actually, would be my guess.
And appreciation's gone up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And loyalty,
yeah.
and commitment, and all the things that really make a great workplace.
Yeah, spot on. Yes. Like that. Yeah.
Okay, Maria, Christopher's just asking you if you can share some insights with him on how your husband does that. So if you can just share that with Christopher.
No problem.
And then Christopher said, interested in the type of work that's benefited from a 4-day week.
Yeah, it's interesting. My wife's company are talking about this at the moment, and they're a branding agency. So, there's all sorts of conversations going on in lots of different companies for this sort of thing. Tosh, anything you can add to that?
Yeah, my firm does that. One of my lawyers was working a 5-day week, and I asked him to do a 4-day week because he had childcare commitments as well, which made things much easier for him. He didn't even ask for it. So, and guess what? It was great. He was working hard during those 4 weeks, hard at it. And then on the Friday that he has off, he can just chill out and have a nice long 3-day week.
Yeah,
it's really, the type of industries. It can be any industry where you aren't necessarily, it's more project orientated than I've got to be there for this call, there's that call, and that call, and so forth, right? So
yeah,
you can always make it work.
Project-wise, I remember when I was back working with 3i, one of my bosses used to say, look, Andrew, I don't care if you go and play golf every day as long as you get the job done. It was not about timekeeping, which I loved. I thought it was great. So off I go and play golf, see what he says.
But what happens if your employee works 1 hour a year, but they get you £1 million in that hour?
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm just squeezing through here. Matthias said, one of my friends had a job where he was allowed to work from home, but he was surveilled at all times and asked questions like, why did you spend 3 minutes away from the screen? Or why are you 1 minute late back from your lunch? Or are you working right now? You have stared into the screen for 1 minute. This didn't lead to increased productivity.
Oh my gosh.
But it won't.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like Big Brother, doesn't it, Tosh? Would you like to? Well, I wouldn't like to work in that place, would you?
It's what it is it's the transfer from working in the workplace where people are seen to be doing certain things, and it's a different dynamic when you're working from home.
Sounds like trust to me.
They've just transferred one situation's expectations to another, and it doesn't work that way. It should be based on outputs, not on necessarily what your inputs or your time is there. As long as the outputs are there.
Correct.
If the objectives are being met and that's being measured, that's fine. Who cares if they're having a Wednesday lunchtime barbecue, as long as it isn't interfering with work? So really, a minute late, that's micromanaging probably at its worst.
Yeah.
Unless this is somebody that's continually late and it starts to become annoying or something, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. Totally. Thank you, Tosh.
Okay, Jana said it is interesting and a bit worrying to see how companies are pulling their employees back to the office now that Corona has gone away.
Yeah, it's interesting because Elon Musk was in the news recently, wasn't he? Saying, "Well, you've got two choices. You can either leave the company or come back to the office. Those are your choices."
I wonder why he says this thing and worrying. Why worrying? You can understand why it's nice to have everybody in the workplace. It is more effective. You can't beat it. Andrew, you and I can go for a drink over Zoom or have a drink down the pub, and there will be different dynamics and different things and ideas that will come that just won't flow from the screen.
Correct.
You can't beat it. You get close to it, but you can't beat it. So I wonder what he means by interesting and worrying.
Yeah. I mean, there is a balance, right? There is a balance. Yeah.
Okay. Jack said the final 30% is to tackle as confident forward thinkers as I mentioned before, we have a diverse group, and the employees who have been here for a while have always worked in a certain way. I'm bringing in I have some idea, but what do you think, to most meetings.
I didn't get the last bit, Berdine.
He said he is bringing in I have some idea, but what do you think, to their meetings.
Great. I love it. Just giving these people a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds like, Jack, you're spot on there, mate. Spot on.
Guy said, years ago when I worked on contract with corporate, I was bullied by my superior colleagues, but the protocol meant I couldn't reach out to the boss directly with a complaint, and I had put in a formal request.
Yeah, that's when things are run by contracts and not by people, right, Tosh?
A lot of HR departments are like that, Andrew. You know, somebody comes with a complaint and they won't deal with it unless somebody puts it in writing. I mean, for God's sake, if somebody's complaining about bullying and harassment, they've already got through enough to get to the point where they're even raising it verbally, so make them relive it and all that sort of stuff. I mean, they might need to with a formal investigation, but again, it comes back to, well, let's just have a talk here now. You know, where are we going with this? How can we resolve it? Let's have that conversation first.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It's due process, isn't it?
Due process.
Straight out of a textbook.
Yeah, sad. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Paul just said that there's too many of these conversations that are missing in the workplace.
Totally, yeah. This is about growing up our working culture to be much more on the people factor side. Absolutely. Treating people as equals and, you know, valuing people, which we'll come on to shortly. Brilliant.
Yeah. And then the guy just...
Sorry, there's a slight delay. It was a good point to mention Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
You know, his seek to understand before you seek to be understood.
Yeah, seek to understand before being understood. Absolutely. Yeah, spot on. Yeah.
Guy just said that the soft skills is a great point, Andrea, and that it's not focused on enough in the workplace.
I think this is still an issue. You know, 15 years ago, 18 years ago, when I set up PDX Consulting, it was all about soft skills in the workplace. And a lot of people at that point were still saying to me, get out of here. We're still onto hard skills. And yet how important that is now in today's world is it's just coming to the fore now, really. And still a lot of companies aren't, they're just giving it lip service. This is important, powerful stuff that is game changing for companies.
I think most people know what to do because it's on the internet. Just Google it about anything. But the question isn't what, it's how do you do it?
Absolutely.
How do you do it effectively?
Yeah.
What's the way to do it? That's 80% of my client work. They know what to do. They just don't know how to go about it in the right way.
Yeah, which is all about training and confidence and being valued and having good conversations with your boss that can give you that confidence, right? Or the people that you work with. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so shall we move on a little bit? There's lots more going on about micromanaging and other bits and pieces here, but just checking where we are. Okay. Gosh, I mean, it's amazing how quickly we've gone. Just give us a bit on hiring. So we've talked about firing. What are the things about hiring, and then we'll move on to valuing as well, Tosh.
Yeah, so you know what happens, right? Most employers will have experienced this at some point if you've ever been in recruitment. We need to get somebody in there. We just need to get somebody, right? Let's put some CVs out, right? Let's interview them. Yeah, CV looks good. Yeah, you sound all right at the interview. Let's give them a job, and they turn out to be a blooming nightmare. It doesn't work. And then what does the person do? Well, they've invested all of that time and effort. Oh God, I can't go back on my decision now. It'll be foolish. Let's just make it work. Yeah. Let's just put that square peg in that round hole.
Force it in.
Yeah, and it's until the point where it's like, I've had enough now. Yeah. That they then end the relationship and then it goes. So that's probably not an uncommon scenario, or they put up with it. And you don't need to. You can get it. Look, there's no, I'm sorry to say, we would love to say, it's 100% tested formula. There's no exact science to it, but we can significantly conduct ourselves in a way that is more likely to increase the chances of finding the right fit over the long-term period, right? That's what we're talking about. So what is the right thing to do? So, and this is certainly, I'm going to tell you my own interview process, which is certainly something I've adopted from reading lots of things from other people and from advisors and other webinars and other things we talk to. So I'm just passing that on. So the first thing is wherever you post it, whether it's through recruitment agents or LinkedIn or Gumtree or wherever it is that you want to apply for your post, the people will come in and they'll get the CVs, right? Yep. So you've got their CVs and you know what that is. That's the best representation of them on paper.
Yeah.
So the first thing you look at is things like typos, errors, maybe gaps, things that make sense. Just filter it, because if that doesn't look already good on paper, I'm afraid, and I would always feed back to the people. So I'm sorry, you've made some errors here. We're going to reject that, or what have you.
That's really good.
They should really be making sure that's picture perfect. That's sloppiness, right? Is the first thing.
Good look
then
on
you
paper.
See the employee. When you see the employee, the way they conduct themselves is very important.
Yeah.
And it isn't a matter of just looking at the skills. I'm going to pass the skills for the job, okay? I'm going to assume, so I'll do the lawyer's thing. So if it's a lawyer, they need to have a law degree. Yeah. Do they need to have 3, 4, 5, 10 years? Great. Is the more experience means the better the lawyer they are? No. It isn't actually. It just means they've been around longer in the game. So that doesn't mean they've got a better understanding of it. So you're looking at attributes. So what I always do is I have the first interview with the person, and I figure out whether I think they've got the right attributes, the way they think. I'm not looking for a dictionary or an encyclopedia, a warehouse of information. I want practical application of that information. I've got the internet for just knowledge, or whatever other tools we've got. True. So you look at the way they think. You ask certain questions about how they would behave in certain situations, or things that matter to them. Yeah. What is it they're trying to do? I don't mean, where do you think you'll be in 5 years? You can do that if you like. I don't do that. I don't even know where I want to be in 5 years. The issue really is, what is it you're trying? What are you looking for? What is it that floats your boat? And you figure out those points. So it's just a very preliminary one is that I first have to find out, what their attitude is to thinking. The next interview is with my team, because they're the ones that are going to have to work with them day to day, get on with them. And I ask them to do two things. Tell me whether you like them. Is there a likability factor? Because skill sets is great, but if everyone's not going to like each other, we're already dealing with difficult situations in the workplace, advising others. My number one thing is, I want the people I work with to be nice. I want them to be smart, enjoy their work, and I want it to be fun, so people we can actually relax and be ourselves with. Is that a dog barking at your background, Andrew?
Not mine. No, it's not my end. Bertie's put a hand up.
I didn't know if somebody was agreeing with me. Or...
Who let the dogs out?
Anyway, so then you go to the team and you say, right, do you like them? And then to talk about the day-to-day stuff. Yeah. Find out how you think they would fit on a day-to-day level. If they pass that gatekeeper, it then goes to our admin staff, because they're going to have to deal with them as well, right? We don't need someone who's rude to them on the phone. The office manager, our support team, they talk to them. And it won't be about law, obviously. It'll just be a chit-chat to figure out what they're like. And then it comes back to me. Obviously, in between each of those times, they're fed back to me. Then it's the final interview, where we talk to them about how they found the experience, and again, what the position is. And the last thing is a written test.
A written test.
That's new that's a new thing for us. In fact, it's followed again from Inspired CEOs. And we ask them 4 questions. 3 of the questions are legal situations. What do they think about it? Again, I'm not looking for a wrong or right answer. I'm looking for critical thinking. And the last thing is, I'm looking at what are the 3 things they're most proud of. You get a real feeling of who they are when you ask those sorts of questions.
Brilliant.
Now you have an idea of their attitude, their skill set, whether you think they're going to be fun, whether they meet your criteria for whatever it is you want in the workplace. And the chances of them fitting in that, given all those gatekeepers, is the most likely way of getting that kind of outcome.
Love that. Yeah. So again, it's about really digging in to find out who the person is that's going to be working with you, seeing how they fit in, and having that likability factor, but also having the knowledge and skill as well. Tosh. All about attitude.
Skills you can teach, Andrew, right? Yeah. Skills you can teach, as long as you're intelligent and teachable. You can learn. People can learn those things. But attitude is not really something that you teach somebody. It's something that they've already got.
Yeah, intrinsic.
I appreciate it can be adapted, but attitude is the difficult one, not skills.
Yeah. Spot on. And we hear that anecdote all the time, don't we, about how true that is.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing is to interview on attitude. And yet we always fall back to competency, don't we, and knowledge and, what's experience perhaps. And yet those should be given on the CV, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Brilliant. Okay. So, we talked a little bit about valuing and, we talked about sort of the dismissal and bullying and things like that. Kind of give us a sense of, we're sort of closing down on this question, by the way, but just give us a sense of the value piece here. Why is this important? And I think you've already touched on it several times here, but just make it concrete for us. What is the thing that we need to be left with here about valuing our, the people that we work with, not just our employees, but people we work with? Because if we're a leader, right, we're a servant leader. We don't have to be the person on top. We're almost like the person underneath and bringing up our staff, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I love that. We both have that same diagram, Andrew, in our minds about where we are in our organisation. I'll start off with a little stat. Yeah. So probably surprisingly, about 80% of employers think that their employees leave because they want higher pay. 80%. And the reality is it's about 12%.
Wow.
79% of people who quit their job is because they lack appreciation, is the reason that they've given for
Gosh.
leaving.
Yeah.
Appreciation's obviously got so many different forms. I don't mean pat on the back, good doggy. It's obviously much more profound than that.
Yeah.
It's about being specific. So I wanted to go through a few things with you, all, if I could, about what appreciation actually means in the workplace. And I know, Andrew, you've got loads of nuggets that you're probably you should really take it over at some stage with some of these bits. It's certainly your bag, right?
Yeah.
So number one with appreciation in the workplace is how it improves employee engagement. You must see that, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely. It's all about engaging and influencing and persuading, isn't it? And, if you feel valued, you feel like you can contribute to that discussion.
And there's again another stat. They said there's 42% less likely to be engagement when there isn't appreciation, which makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're just going to disconnect.
Yeah. When people come home from work and they feel underappreciated, it really does impact them massively.
We'll go into how they should appreciate them in a little bit. I appreciate time ticking on.
Yeah, time's ticking on. Yeah.
I'm talking faster now.
Yeah.
Boost productivity.
Good lad.
In boost productivity, 18 times in the increase of productivity is what they say, where people are recognized for their work. 18 times. It strengthens the company culture.
Yeah.
Employee recognition, where it's a sort of social conditioning, or that sort of social proofing, where everybody kind of sees what is happening. It lifts everybody up. They see that they're rewarding people for their behaviors and what they do. And there's something here that it talks about the impact on the 6 essential elements of a thriving organizational structure, which means when you show appreciation, it keeps them connected with the purpose of the business. It makes them look for opportunities and possibilities within the business. It talks about it looks at the perception of the leader. You get a better buy-in, more loyalty. Appreciation means they feel more valued. We talked about this like in a personal relationship. How much does your partner appreciate you? I bet you the more they do, the more you're in love with that situation, and the reverse is also true. And then about success in the business. Appreciation means people are innovating. You've got that kind of culture. Jack White was talking about it. I love that. It's giving a voice. That's what I think. What do you think? So all those things will really massively help with contributing to the success of the company. Definitely appreciation is the word of the day.
Beautiful. I really like that. Laurie just brings back to something you were talking about earlier. The number of resumes I've read that say the person is detail oriented and they use the wrong form. Just a nickel for one. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, so good. Yeah. And Jack says, staggering stat. This was you, 79%. I have never left a job for money, always because I'm underappreciated. That's that 12% and 79% bit, isn't it? Yes. Joe says, I have left jobs for underappreciation. You can't put 100% in if you don't feel 100% valued. Absolutely. Spot on, Joe. Absolutely. Yeah. So look, Tosh, and just as we're wrapping up very quickly here, sort of 3 top tips from you, Tosh, very quickly. 3 top tips.
So I'm going to just focus on the appreciation aspect. The 3 skills we went through already. What I'm going to say to you is with the appreciation, it's be specific. See what, to the person, be clear what difference they're making to the company and the world, if that's appropriate. Mm-hmm. I would say reward results. And that doesn't just mean because they hit a target. Maybe you can reward, in terms of appreciation at birthdays. I've got a bucket list for all of my staff. And what we try and do is we tick off something off the bucket list at Christmas and New Year. And it's progress, right? But gifts can be things like experimental gifts, merchandise, maybe cash or gift cards or whatever. But something, it doesn't just have to be money, right? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, love that.
And I think also really helping your employees care about the entire work experience. That means how you see them grow, how you communicate with them. In a sentence, how have you got your employees back? How do you think they talk? Because your reputation and what you think is what people say behind your back. So what do they need to see? How do you need to show up so they feel you've got their back no matter what?
Yeah.
If you're at that stage, you're really unstoppable.
Yeah, very good. Love that. You're unstoppable. Legend, Tosh. Fantastic content, brilliantly delivered. Your staff are lucky to have you. Yeah, and I think someone else said that earlier as well. Here we go. No one appreciates and encourages employees better than you, Tosh. So everyone, listen up, folks. Listen up. Love that. There's a bit of love in the room for you from. Lovely, lovely, love that. Okay, so how can people get hold of you? Let's right, where are we? Let's just bring up your details. 1 second. Here we go. So to get hold of Tosh, here we go. So we've got Tosh's LinkedIn profile here. We'll put all these links in. His website is astutelaw.co.uk. And there are other websites there on the backslashes. You can get hold of him by telephone. And his email is thushara.polpitiye at astutelaw.co.uk, not Tosh at astutelaw.co.uk.
That's why they call me Tosh, obviously. And you won't be surprised to know I'm the only lawyer with my name on the planet. So finding me on Google will be very easy.
Very easy indeed. You just need to spell it right? You don't even have to pronounce it right. So there we go.
They'll probably catch me with the Polpitiye even.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So that's a little bit about that. A little bit about me, just very quickly. Thanks again, Tosh, for enlightening us today with an extraordinary conversation. We've loved having you, hanging out with you, my friend. And this show will be on podcast too very shortly, people. And also join in on our LinkedIn Leaders Live group and keep the conversation moving over there. And remember to subscribe on YouTube as well to us. In terms of what I do, I speak and host events. As well as Leaders Live, I facilitate top teams and strategy processes. Develop high-performing teams is really my main bit that I'm doing, and I'm a fully qualified executive coach. And as Tosh has mentioned, join Inspired CEOs if you're a leader of a small business and you've got employees and staff that you want some help with just having mutual conversations with caring people that will inspire you. That's what Inspired CEOs is all about. So quick goose for next week. Oh, and just the motto of Leaders Live, just bear with me, where are we? Oh, can't find it. Here we go. Yeah. So, look, we're all about building a community of like-minded people, folks. And this is particularly relevant to building back better businesses and high-performing teams, particularly after the last 2 years. And building those hybrid offices and, that we can work from both from home and in the office. So, look, Leaders Live is a friendly, available, edutaining expression of all of this. And anyone can join in to take part in these extraordinary conversations that we've just had today. And through these simple ideas, we aim to make a difference and make the world better too, folks. We want a spirit of freedom, joy and fun through the feel-good factor in all of our working lives. So the goose for next week, folks, we've got Nevsar Fiden Karamemet, I don't know whether I've pronounced that correctly, chatting about how to practice energy breath work in the office. That's going to be great, following on from Shona Taylor's work as well, and creating healthier teams. And Nevsar and her colleague Antonia both regularly attend the Leaders Live show, so it's great to have them on. So we can't wait. Be there or be square, folks. And so we're just going to bop out with this music here. So it's been great to hang out with you today. Thanks again, Tosh, for a brilliant session. Thanks so much for being part of this show, folks, and creating such a great Leaders Live community with such a brilliant vibe. We can't do this without you, folks. So podcast will be available too shortly. And in the meantime, that's a wrap, folks. So goodbye from Tosh and goodbye from Berdine. And we'll see you again next week. You can bop out to the intro music. That's all for now, folks. See you again next week. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.